You know, I thought about doing this. I went back and forth on it. I had my doubts, but let's do it. I'm one of the first China YouTubers. I lived in China for a decade. I learned Chinese, I bought a house, I settled down, I rode for years on a motorcycle with my buddy 𝚅𝚒𝚘𝚄𝚼𝙸 across the entire country, exploring and uncovering the China that you don't get to see on China's propaganda. I even made 2 TV shows about it. Well, let's just say things took a dark turn politically and I fled China with my family and decided to speak out against the Chinese government because of what I had been witnessing. In that time, my audience grew, and so did my sense of justice. I covered the uprising of Hong Kongers against Beijing's takeover of their territory. I was one of the main voices who discovered the origin of COVID. I found evidence of DNA bioweapons planned by the PLA. I covered the floods that China said claimed dozens of lives, but actually killed countless thousands. I covered China's TikTok propaganda campaign aimed at poisoning the minds of Americans for years. I covered the student uprisings that spread across China, demanding justice before being brutally silenced. I covered the Uyghur genocide and the countless victims of China's malicious concentration camps. I covered how China partnered with Russia to help with the Ukraine invasion. I covered the hacks that China committed against my country and its people. I covered the secret Chinese police station tasked with hurting people like me in the USA. I was then attacked for speaking out. China paid people to go after me. China has tried time and time again to destroy my life and the life of my coworker. And yet I persist because the Chinese government is bad. It's just bad. It's what I believe to be the single worst force on Earth today. Now here's the deal. I have 180 million views. I have 1 million subscribers. I am one of the biggest voices that speaks out against the Chinese government, and I am one of the biggest voices in regards to China on the English-speaking internet, period. I have a very amazing audience that believes in right and wrong. I get views on my content because you deserve to see what's really happening behind what China's trying to cover up. This isn't about me. This is about the future of our world. This is the future of our freedom. This is the future freedom of Chinese people. I put in the work and I put everything on the line to tell you the truth. So maybe you can tell me why you're not seeing my videos anymore. Certainly, in a world where China is discussed more than ever, one of the biggest and most popular YouTubers would show up on your feed talking about the topic that you care enough about to watch videos about it. Right at the time of the US election, YouTube pulled the plug on my channel. The way that people get views on YouTube is YouTube actually recommends videos to them. Like when you open up your feed, you'll see a video from someone that you probably want to watch. Overnight, they stopped recommending my videos to people in my own audience. People came out en masse to tell me that they don't get recommended or notified of my videos anymore. And it all happened again right after the election. I have no idea why. My views went down by 5 to 10-fold overnight. And that's not organic. YouTube likes to tell creators like myself that, oh, there's just not any interest anymore, but that doesn't happen over the span of one day. In fact, what is happening in my audience is that people are now getting recommended pro-Chinese government content right now. There are thousands of videos in support of the Chinese government. Uyghur genocide denial, you name it, it's out there, it's getting pushed like crazy. The Chinese government is throwing insane amounts of money at this right now to drown out people like myself and promote pro-China content. I mean, look what happens when you search for one of my channels, China Fact Chasers. It'll feed you a sponsored ad for a YouTube video that's being paid for to be promoted to my audience. It's not just travel stuff either. It's pro-Chinese government videos as well. But that doesn't paint the whole picture. It's not just because there's tons of pro-China videos that you're not seeing in my videos. No. YouTube has absolutely blacklisted me. I get the feeling that someone at YouTube probably has been tasked with blacklisting anti-CCP content and channels like mine because of this. In fact, let me prove it to you. If you search China on YouTube and you use an incognito window, and you even hop around to different servers on your VPN, you're gonna notice something. My content doesn't come up at all. Not once. In 500 plus results, my videos do not exist. Don't you think that one of the biggest YouTubers that covers China with over 1 million subscribers and 180 million views would come up? It's literally all I cover, and it's very relevant videos and topics that I make about China that should be populating these search results. Not only does pro-CCP videos show up hundreds of times in these results, straight up propaganda, older CCP propaganda videos that are not even currently relevant anymore show up. China travel content shows up out the wazoo, but also videos with 0 views. YouTube says their algorithm in search is based on competition. Okay, YouTube, I'll play devil's advocate. I'll believe you for a second, but are you really trying to tell me that I'm less relevant than videos about China with no views? 0 views. Before the election, I made a video with over 1 million views. Where's that in the search results? Where's my recent content? Certainly, my China content with hundreds of thousands of views is more relevant than videos about China with no views. I'll make this even scarier. What if I told you that not only is YouTube not showing anti-CCP content, what if I told you they were promoting anti-America content? Let's look at my buddy 𝚅𝚒𝚘𝚄𝙼𝙸. He's been doing really well on his channel. Wait a minute though, he wasn't until very recently. YouTube actually killed his channel at the exact same time that they killed mine. How did he manage to pull out of this horrible situation? Well, do you know how he did it? We came up with an experiment. We thought of something. What if on the 𝚅𝚒𝚘𝚄𝙼 channel, his channel, we made videos that were anti-CCP but looked like anti-America content? We unleashed this experiment and were not too pleased with the results. When he made videos that looked like pro-China and anti-US content, the views went up 5 times. 5 times the views. In fact, exactly the amount of views that we lost after the election. And look, when you do a YouTube search for China, only his anti-America looking content comes up in the search, not his anti-CCP content. In fact, anti-America, pro-China government channels are absolutely cleaning up right now across the board. So I want to ask you, YouTube, are you being honest? 2 of the biggest YouTubers with China as the topic of their content, and only anti-USA videos show up on search results with hundreds of other pro-CCP videos? Are you being truthful here? Is that organic? In fact, we spoke to China Uncensored, another anti-CCP channel, and they suffered in a very similar way to us. There is absolutely, positively something going wrong. Did some Silicon Valley tech bros make a deal with China and pull the strings in the background? Is something happening at Google? Was there a political calculation made? We know that China is throwing billions of dollars at search engine optimization and pro-China, pro-CCP content. But that doesn't explain why I cannot compete in search results with videos with no views. Dear YouTube, take the gag order off my channel, off 𝚅𝚒𝚘𝚄𝙼𝙸, off anyone that criticizes the CCP, and stop helping them. You're helping the Chinese government straight up attack Americans with propaganda from China and stifling the much needed critical voices that speak the truth against the Chinese government. Also, stop promoting anti-America content while hiding the negative content about China. Let's even the playing field, okay? Since China has unleashed utter warfare against the US, content creators that are critical of the Chinese government have noticed something really horrible. And I think this started with this TikTok ban drama. This caused a tidal wave of Americans to be pushed into other Chinese apps that are being sanitized, censored, and fully controlled by the Chinese government, like Red Note or Xiaohongshu. And this was followed up by China's dumping and promotion of DeepSeek AI, which upended the US economy for a short time, not to mention China hacking our treasury, our citizens, and our American infrastructure, with the intent to destroy it and destroy us. China has shown its true colors, and it's time for tech companies, governments, and people to do something about this.
This is in Chongqing, China, a southwestern city known for its spicy hot pot. Someone has filmed 2 hotel employees recycling sewer oil from a garbage bin. According to Chinese media, on March 20th, the hotel in question responded to the incident saying that the women in the video were indeed employees of the hotel, but that their actions were not arranged by the hotel and that the hotel didn't use the grease they recovered. Chongqing's Market Supervision Administration said that several local departments have jointly investigated the matter and ruled out the possibility that the hotel recycled the grease for catering purposes. The concept of sewer oil first appeared in China in 1998. China's outspoken media, the Southern Metropolis Daily, launched a series of investigative reports on underground mills refining peanut oil from waste grease during Consumer Day on March 15, 1998. Since then, the term sewer oil has taken firm root in the daily lives of Chinese people. On March 17, 2011, China Youth Daily published an article entitled "Rounding Up Sewer Oil," in which a professor found that the total annual demand for cooking oil in mainland China was about 22.5 million tons, but the actual production was less than 20 million tons. After investigating, he estimated that 2 to 3 million tons of waste grease flows back to the table in China each year. It means about 15% of restaurants in China use sewer oil at the time. The professor is now a member of the Teaching Steering Committee of Light Industry and Food Science in Higher Education Institutions of the Chinese Ministry of Education, and his findings carry a certain weight. In other words, 1/10 of the fats and oils consumed by Chinese people may be sewer oil. More than a decade has passed, and with Chinese society as a whole corrupting at a rapid rate, it can be assumed that the use of sewer oil will only get worse and is unlikely to change. Sewer oil refers to the oil extracted from the greasy floats in the sewers or slop from hotels and restaurants. The public fears sewer oil mostly because of the word sewer in its name. So how harmful is it to humans? First of all, the raw materials for making sewer oil come from kitchen waste, which is laden with pesticide residues, heavy metal contaminants, and pathogenic bacteria. Many small mills in China don't have the processing technology and sanitary conditions required to destroy the pathogenic bacteria and chemical residues in these fats. In addition, a professor at China Agricultural University said, "The greatest danger to humans from sewer oil comes not from sewer but from 2 factors, repeated heating and oxidation." Fats and oils can produce a large number of cancer-causing substances under heating conditions. Aflatoxins and benzoapyrene are 2 of the most dangerous substances. Aflatoxin has been identified by far as the most toxic cancer-causing agent. Its toxicity is 68 times that of arsenic. It's very resilient and can only start to decompose when heated above 280 degrees Celsius. Benzoapyrene is a Class 1 dangerous toxicant which is highly cancerous. A research experiment in Japan showed that when it was applied to the ears of rabbits after 40 days of application, tumors grew on the rabbits' ears. Will the toxins be less toxic to humans? The answer is no, except that these toxins have a longer incubation period in humans, up to 10 to 15 years. Perhaps the long incubation period has allowed the Chinese to grow accustomed to sewer oil. In addition to deadly cancers, the harmful ingredients in sewer oil can directly damage the human digestive and immune systems, causing food poisoning, dizziness, vomiting, and diarrhea. Media of various levels in China have repeatedly exposed the alleged production and use of sewer oil in restaurants. In Sichuan province, for example, the prevalence of hot pots has led to the development of a sewer oil industry, and the crackdown on it has almost become a routine annual event for the local government. In December 2021, a hot pot restaurant in Sichuan province was fined about $200,000 after being found guilty of using sewer oil. However, it is difficult to tell whether the government's actions are cosmetic or sincere. The public may see the businesses being investigated and penalized, but how many more businesses with the same practices are left unchecked? The public has also found that those involved in sewer oil operations are quite assertive nowadays.
Check out this video, I'm uploading it now. Have a look and see what they say. They said they have official approval for the sewer oil they pull out. I have no idea which official can give her such approval. She said her sewer oil has legal procedures. I hope the government can check it out. Where are their legal procedures? I hope everyone sees this video and share it. It's no use to report to the police. Do whatever you want. Okay, do you hear it, everyone? She said it's useless to report to the police. You see how bold they are? I hope all the viewers who see the video can share it and spread the positive energy.
If you know just how profitable sewer oil is, you might understand why it's so rampant in China. According to a June 2018 report by Chinese media outlet Xinjiang Daily, a married couple began processing sewer oil in 2013. They paid half a yuan or 8 American cents for 500 grams of kitchen waste, made it into grease, and then sold it to professional and legitimate procurement and processing companies for 30 American cents. When the recycled sewer oil was sold again to restaurants and hot pot-based manufacturers, the price rose to roughly 50 American cents. As early as 2012, Chinese media reported that the price of a ton of slop was $25 and it took 5 tons of slop to produce 1 ton of sewer oil, so the cost of raw materials was $125. After deducting the cost of other materials, transportation, labor, and so on, the cost of 1 ton of crude sewer oil was about $157. Later, a variety of procedures such as decolorization, deodorization, and impurity removal were applied, which brought the price of sewer oil to about $1,250 per ton. The raw material cost $125, and the final product sold at $1,250. It was an absolute windfall. Even the producers at the most rudimentary level could make a profit of at least 200 to 300%. According to a 2010 report by China's news agency Xinhua, workers in an illegal sewer oil mill in a village could earn an average of more than 6,000 RMB, or about $950 per month. Other surveys suggest that some people make more than 10,000 RMB, or more than $1,500 per month. To this day, the Chinese government hasn't introduced a test method for sewer oil. According to a scholar from the Chinese Academy of Engineering, China's current food regulation model relies on end product sampling and testing. Since it only tests the end products, the production process is under loose regulation. Such a regulatory model was phased out internationally more than 20 years ago, but China is still using it today. Under such a system, businesses operate accordingly, making it difficult to establish a comprehensive kitchen waste management system as in the West. It isn't surprising then that many Chinese restaurants and small hotels have filthy kitchens. Likewise, pickup trucks loaded with food waste late at night, heading to who knows where, have become a night scene in many cities. Media attention to the issue of sewer oil peaked between 2010 and 2011 and then dropped off abruptly. In 2011, there was a related incident. A reporter posted a message on his Weibo account on September 15, 2011. It was his last message. The message reads, "Netizens complained about sewer oil site in Luanshan County, this province, and the local food safety committee responded that no such site was found." On September 18, 2011, at 1 a.m., he was attacked at the back door of his workplace. He died after being stabbed more than 10 times. His computer bag was snatched away. At first, the police said, the current scene shows Li Xian was stabbed more than 10 times all over his body. It doesn't meet the characteristics of a general robbery case. It can't be ruled out that the murderer had other motives. However, the police soon announced that the case was an ordinary robbery. At the same time, Li's parents took to the media to state that the incident had nothing to do with sewer oil and asked the public to forget about Li Xiang as soon as possible. The government's announcement was not well received. People commented online. The unscrupulous people who make and sell sewer oil are so rampant that a huge profit chain has formed behind them. Why did the murderer stab him more than 10 times if it were only a common robbery case? The reporter from Southern Metropolis Daily who first uncovered the dark secret of China's sewer oil in 1998 later migrated overseas. Exposing food malpractice in China is a dangerous job. On April 9, 2012, a well-known news anchor on China national television posted a message on his personal Weibo advising, a message from an investigative journalist, don't eat old yogurt solids and jellies in solid form, especially children. The inside story is scary. I won't share details. This message attracted the attention of all walks of life and was immediately shared 130,000 times online. At the same time, another investigative reporter from Economic Observer also wrote on Weibo, "One day you throw out a pair of old shoes, in the blink of an eye it will enter your stomach." Shortly afterward, the two reporters deleted their related posts. The next day, one disappeared from the national TV where he worked. 4 months later, he appeared in another program. 3 years later, he resigned from the national TV station without explaining why. In 2010, China's State Council issued the Opinions on Better Management of Sewer Oil and Kitchen Waste, announcing that it would tackle related illegal and criminal acts head-on. The following year, in 2011, then-Premier denounced the tainted milk powder, lean meat extract, and sewer oil that had plagued the people in recent years, saying, "These vicious food safety incidents have shown how serious the lack of integrity and the decline of morality has become." But unfortunately, no matter how determined the media or senior officials are, the issue of sewer oil, like many Chinese problems, remains unsolvable even after more than a decade.
这是上来过的。这是不是沙子？咦，来了，过来了，过来了。回来了。哦，聊那个黑爷已经来了。已经风已经过来了。哦，已经过来了。我操！已经过来了，让我们全跑了。我去，完全盖住了。哎，不行了，完全过来了，结合了。完全喝了。我操！结合了。哦，双结合了，双结合了。结合了，我操！咦，喝了！最大的沙尘暴。是不是有点吓人？哦，完全喝了。完全喝动。
我发现了诡异的一幕。
什么一幕
？88页。他说，2020年新冠肺炎疫情爆发以后，他说的是2020年新冠肺炎，对吧？
对呀。
然后呢，我翻到了最后一页。
怎么了？
这个书它是2019年做的。那他为什么知道2020年会发生新
用教育部吗？
白皮书正在粉碎中，汇联华更。
响应国家号召，草坪全部退林还耕，草卷儿大的。
我们三圣乡最是 A 级景区内的荷塘月色，以前吸引了多少游客啊！是 A 级景。
第二个菜买完，这个大帮都别撤了。中菜有一块，就那边不让搭建。
我现在就缺食物，行，没办法，又要过河了，不知道过了几条河了。看人家大哥，什么国家的人都有，只有南美洲。我就不知道哪个第一个开发这个路线的，啊，太牛逼了！小孩子走不动，都边哭边拉着走。你看，一滑下去有点受伤。在这里面啊，绝对不能受伤，没人会管你的。哎呀，受伤就凉凉了，又堵车又堵车。你看这 但是一路上环境已经乌烟瘴气，到处垃圾，没办法了，有得有失了，朋友们。
Purchase at 𝙸𝙻𝙻𝚄𝙼𝙸𝙽𝙀.
这是日本的芬达，这是我们的芬达。接下来咱们做一个实验，保证让大家大开眼界。这是我们的，这是小日本的。好，为了更明显，我们先加一杯橙汁， 差不多了。这是西色片，我们来给它放2片吧。这里也放2片，同样橙汁里面也放2片。来，咱们看一下，这是我们的，这是日本的。我多么希望结果是一样的。这是普通橙汁的。我多么希望他们的结果是一样的，但是却不是。
妹妹，你捡瓶瓶吗？我那边有个，你给不？快来，那边有个，快来。啊？哪里啊？你妈妈怎么了？你不输了的？没有啊。
We don't say no.
Tiananmen，就拿台湾做练习，一个空降兵降阳明山，一个空降兵兵团降台中平原，一个空降兵兵团降台南平原，给这个强大的空降兵兵团，强大的所有陆海空军的指挥系统，哎，远程指挥，远程支援，空军支援，陆军航空兵支援，这个舰队支援，给他3个空降兵配给，3个空降兵集团，让他们激降。该降多少万人有多少，有多少万空降兵全部。
So Russia and Ukraine, well, they're in the news non-stop, and rightfully so. But what if I told you that China is secretly in the background, potentially getting ready to make the biggest land grab and ultimate betrayal the world has ever seen in modern times? You see, China's been quietly changing Russian names of Siberian territories, in eastern Russia, to Chinese ones. And it's not just for face. They're not just doing it to placate some angry nationalists in China. No, this is for world domination. Bolshoi-Ussuriysky Island on the China-Russia border has been the subject of contention since the 1800s. And there's a reason. But the biggest thing that you need to know today from this video is that China doesn't call it that. China calls it the 𝚅𝚗𝚻𝚃 Island or the Black Bear Island, and it's been drawn by China as Chinese territory now. China and Russia, best friends forever? China just drew in a key territory under its ownership. And instead of fighting back, it looks like Russia has silently allowed this to happen, and this is huge. China's now building up the island as their very own. See, Russia owes China. They owe China big for its help in the invasion of Ukraine. But they don't have a whole lot to offer China, other than its lands that China so humiliatingly lost in the past. Now, why does this matter? Well, let me put it to you this way. If China owns this island, it would actually allow them to bypass Korea, Japan, and Taiwan, therefore ignoring US presence in Asia and in the Pacific Ocean. China could effectively avoid all contact with US allies and literally go on a world conquest, something I think they're planning on doing. This makes a lot of sense with their insane naval and shipbuilding explosion that we're actually seeing at the moment. Now, this is huge, but trust me, it actually gets a whole lot bigger, and I mean physically too. Now, we are currently seeing China build up to a Taiwan invasion. I mean, they're literally making the landing pads. But while I think that China's invasion of Taiwan is definitely gonna happen someday, what about the invasion of Eastern Russia? I'm not just talking about this island, I'm talking about the whole thing. If you look around China's northern regions, you will see that they are busy turning the earth into an absolute crater. Rare earths, minerals, deposits, mines out the wazoo. China is looting and plundering every single inch of earth that it can get its hands on, and it makes a whole lot of sense with the future that the world is headed towards. He who holds the chips and the resources for tech production wins. Does Taiwan have any of these resources? No. If China invades Taiwan, Taiwan will blow up the chip factories, and China will be left with an island of 20 million people that hate and reject China's rule. Good luck. But what if you look back up to where China's cratering the earth in this mad rush of getting important resources in the Chinese provinces of Inner Mongolia, Xinjiang, and Heilongjiang? Where do those places border? They border Russia. Where's the rest of those deposits that they're missing? Rare earths, minerals, and resources, they don't follow where countries' borders are drawn. They're right there on the other side of China, on the Russian side. Why would China not make a massive effort to secretly push into these areas? If China invaded Russia, would anyone care? If they invaded Taiwan, the whole world would lose their collective minds. But Russia? No one's gonna care if they invaded Russia. Who's allied with Russia? China. Just China, really. And do you think with China's current military buildup that Russia could fend off China? I think not. But again, aren't Russia and China friends? No. Really. I know you hear otherwise, but no. They ally on shared goals, but not long term. Don't buy the China-Russia friendship propaganda. We've all seen the, let's be honest, very gay China and Soviet posters from back in the day. And nobody shows these. China and Russia hated each other for all of time. They distrust each other from the bottom of their very souls. Even as communist allies, the Soviets taught people to hate China. And China taught the Chinese that the Soviets were gonna nuke them. Mao hated the Soviet Union more than he hated the capitalist West. Hell, Mao built an entire underground city in Beijing to protect against the Soviets. No one talks about this, but the Soviets and Communist China actually fought a damn war against each other. And they've had many conflicts following. China would have you believe that Russia is its long-lost brother. That's all politics. They have you believe these things because they have thousands and thousands of these Russia-China friendship shops that are springing up all over China to get Chinese people to spend their hard-earned RMB in these shops to fund Russia's war efforts. These shops sell Russian goods like chocolate and souvenirs and more, all in an effort for China to help its brother as it fights its justified war in Ukraine. But as angry Russians have found out, the vast majority of the products in these shops are counterfeit, and they sell fake Russian goods that are actually Chinese. And the money, it goes straight to the Chinese companies. China betraying, lying, and cheating? Color me surprised. The betrayal is real. There's no friendship here. An example of this distrust in action is the general vibe that I got when I went to the China-Russia border. There were banners telling Chinese people not to risk their lives running across into Russia, I guess presumably to escape. There are military fortifications everywhere. The area feels incredibly tense and not relaxed at all. An interesting thing I discovered when I was up there was that the Soviets let Mao kind of draw the borders pretty randomly. So a bunch of white Russian people actually ended up on the Chinese side of the border, and nobody knew. Now there's actually white Russians who I met who are actually Chinese. And it was really weird when I spoke to them because I actually had to communicate in Chinese to them. Now on the Russian side of things, they are losing a ton of men from Eastern Russia to the war in Ukraine. So because of the downturn in the economy of Russia, they desperately need immigrants. What better immigrants to have than your Chinese compatriots right across the border? But people in Russia have a staunchly anti-Chinese stance against Chinese immigrants coming to Russia. And why? Well, here's the deal. These parts of Eastern Russia are actually home to many minority groups of people that look Asian. These are not white people. Russia is worried that China will soft power these minority regions of people that look Asian into the Chinese sphere of influence, effectively making them breakaway regions, separatist regions from Russia. They could use Chinese apps like TikTok and Chinese social media to spread messaging within the region and tantalize the already not very nationalistic Asian-looking minority groups in Russia, many of whom have lost their husbands or fathers or uncles in the war far away in Ukraine. They could use the typical false promise of Chinese utopia across the border. Judging from China's successful psyop on Americans who are uneducated about the reality of China and getting them to move over to Red Note to spread more Chinese propaganda to them, I could see that strategy working very well. None of these behaviors on China or Russia's side screams friendship to me. One of China's goals is to pair up with Russia to limit US influence around the world. But if the US and Russia patch things up, and I mean even to a tiny extent, China's about to lose a lot of its cards and its ambitions to control the region. China thinks it owns Russia right now, but if it doesn't have a unified enemy of the US with another major power, well, China just lost a massive hand in this global poker game. It would make perfect sense that China, over the near future, would try and scoop up its old perceived territories and try to milk Eastern Russia for its resources. The be-all and end-all is that China's ambitions are not to chill out and be peaceful by itself. Despite China's official outward message to the world that is, it's a peaceful nation that just wants all the countries in the world to get along, China's ambitions are world domination, and that hasn't changed. Mao isn't gone. I know he's a piece of jerky laying in a mausoleum right now, but Mao led the Communist Party into victory over China, and that same government, that same constitution, those same ambitions are very, very real. As China tries to take on the USA more and more, it will also try and take everything around it. If not through diplomatic and economic coercion, then they're gonna do it by force. You'll see. If you guys like this, you're gonna love The China Show. That's my long-form news show that I do every single Friday with 𝚅𝚒𝚘𝚄𝙼. It's a fantastic place to go and see what's happening in China currently. It's all the current news, everything that's happening. You translate things that are happening in China and take clips from people that manage to smuggle them out of China to feed you what's currently happening in one of the most important countries in the world. If you want to support my work, you can actually go find my secret show. It's just not nice, dude. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, it's not the best thing in the world.
I don't want to think about that when I go to bed.
Well, you're the one bringing that up.
No, because that
you go to bed and you're like, let me just go back into the recesses of my mind, and you're like, yes, perfect. Where are the tissues?
Oh, come on! It's on patreon.com/ADVpodcasts.
Well, what do you know? The racists were right. COVID-19 did come from a Chinese lab in Wuhan. You know what time it is? It's time to debunk some Chinese propaganda. The Chinese government has always operated in a rather sneaky and sinister way, and that is to use the systems that are in place in whichever country they deal with against that country for their own purposes. In fact, I came across this fantastic clip which sums it all up.
The Chinese Communist Party has a saying when it comes to their warfare, psychological warfare operations, and other forms of subversion. Strangle you with your own systems. In other words, observing how different countries operate, what is controversial within their systems, how does their system function, how can we use those systems to twist things around, to cause chaos, to mess things up, to use it against them. You say you believe in free speech? We'll have protests in your own backyard calling you out. You say you believe in free press. Well, we'll start up state-run media in your country, and we'll use those state-run media to lie to your population, to spread our propaganda. That's what they do. You believe in free markets. How about we bring state-run companies that can sell below cost and put your companies out of business and take over your industries? That's what they're doing, right? Strangle you with your own systems. And what is controversial in the United States? What is most controversial? Racism. This race narrative, they know they can use it. They've been doing it for a very long time. There are different groups, for example, Committee of 100 in the US, where every time a Chinese spy is arrested, they call it racism, because they know it's what we're sensitive to. The Chinese military has a doctrine on this, the three warfares doctrine: psychological warfare, media warfare, and legal warfare. This is publicly adopted into their military doctrine. This is part of their military system. Now, what are these? Psychological warfare is not necessarily lying to you. Psychological warfare is altering how you interpret information. And so when you see a virus coming out of China and people say this virus came out of China, if you call it the Chinese virus, they want to use this and twist it around and say it is racist if you talk about the origin of this virus. What is media warfare? Media warfare is the manipulation or control of outlets of information, not just news outlets, but say social media, online platforms, the ability to speak openly. Anything that would allow people to communicate would be a target of media warfare. And what is legal warfare? Legal warfare is a manipulation of international legal systems. The Chinese Communist Party, for them, this is adopted into their military code. This is war fighting to them.
Anyone who had common sense knew that COVID-19 breaking out in a wet market close to a lab that studied coronaviruses was no coincidence. But somehow China and its collaborators managed to force everybody to actually think that it was a conspiracy and racist to claim that COVID-19 came from the place it came from. To those of us in the know who lived in China, have dealt with the Chinese government, have met and wined and dined with Chinese officials and have Chinese family and have walked the walk and talked the talk, as soon as this whole shutdown of Wuhan happened, where they allowed people to travel internationally out of Wuhan but not to travel anywhere domestically within China from Wuhan, we knew what was going on. We knew that this was a big problem. And just like SARS before it, the bird flu breakout, and a couple of other instances in the past that have been very, very hectic, we knew China had a new virus and we knew it was spreading. And we knew it was coming from Wuhan. And the Chinese government itself told everybody it was from Wuhan in the beginning. And the doctors, like Dr. Li Wenliang, who tried to spread awareness about this new pneumonia breaking out in Wuhan, at least to his colleagues, was forced, and they were called in to sign confessions and put their fingerprints and sign to say that they were spreading rumors, and they were disciplined. Of course, we all know that Dr. Li Wenliang, an absolute hero, died trying to fight the coronavirus a short time after this. It's crazy to think that China managed to brainwash absolutely everyone into thinking that the coronavirus didn't come from China. Oh, they said it came from Italy. Then they said it came from random other countries. They blamed it on the US. Then they blamed it on a military exercise. Then they blamed it on Fort Detrick. Then they blamed it on everything. They had the WHO in their pockets, spinning lies on behalf of the Chinese government, telling the world and tweeting out that there is no human-to-human contact when the Chinese government already knew that there was. But the WHO was tweeting out that according to the Chinese government, there's no human-to-human contact. An absolute betrayal. And of course the WHO would do so because the leader of the WHO at the time, Tedros, owed a lot of his position, his success, and of course his career to China. So why would he not act on their behalf? The fact of the matter is that China is responsible for millions of deaths worldwide. It's been common knowledge amongst people who actually understand China for the longest time. But it's only very recently that the rest of the world has started to take this seriously. So the White House released this lab leak origins website. Let's look at it together and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Alright, so I've pulled it up here and it says lab leak. The true origins of COVID-19, and we have a picture of Trump in the middle of it. All right, number 1. The virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Of course, we know that. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to the previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. Number 3, Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene-altering in organism supercharging, and inadequate biosafety levels. We know many people have complained at the lax level of safety, and by the way, having lived in China for 14 years, I know factories are very unsafe when it comes to worker safety. So many shortcuts are taken. We've seen what happens when they build bridges and build buildings. They collapse because they use the wrong materials. If a shortcut can be taken in China, it is. China is the land of shortcuts and facades. So to think that a biolab is going to be safe is nonsense. The fact that I have been to hospitals where the nurses draw blood and they don't wear gloves and doctors are smoking in the hospitals, that type of thing. Come on guys, let's get real here. In China, they're going to be breaking all the safety protocols. People are going to be eating their lunch next to a petri dish. It's going to be disaster. Number 4. The Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. Again, we can see a map of how close the Huanan seafood market was from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, if you know about Chinese wet markets, they're very unsanitary, they're very crowded. People come there, they buy meat that's not refrigerated, it's all lying out in the open. You've got live animals, it's chaotic, it's jovial in a way, and it's something that people go to every day. So the entire community will go to the wet market in order to buy their food for the day, every single day. So it's a huge meeting spot, and all you need is one of those infected lab workers or somebody who delivered food to the lab or something like that to go and get their groceries, and it's a brilliant place for the virus to spread. It's so close to the lab, this is not coincidence. And again, anyone with common sense would have been able to figure this out by themselves. But if you did, you were labeled racist, and I'm going to get to that again in a minute. As I scroll down here, I start to get a little bit disheartened. Of course, we've got the Eco Health Alliance mentioned here. If you've been watching the show for any length of time, the China show, it's my live show I have, we've been making fun of and raising awareness about Dr. Peter Daszak. We call him Dr. Ballsack. And he walked out and he said, no, it's all fine here. There's no evidence of any kind of leak. And he also did all sorts of things to try and convince people in the Nature magazine and so on to write that anyone who thinks it came from a lab, his lab, the lab he was working with, well, they're conspiracy theorists. Or, later on, of course, the narrative moved on to racists. The Chinese government pushed that narrative. So, Peter Daszak, yeah, he needs to be looked at a little bit. We've got Anthony Fauci, and of course, he needs to be looked at too. But you see, there's a problem here. I'm starting to see more and more focus on domestic US politics here.
Не знав. Свою бачу.
Purchase at 𝙸𝙻𝙻𝚄𝙼𝙸𝙽𝙀.
Важко, це не висновок. Зараз буду вбирати голову. Де хлопці лягають. Вони в житті не бачили нічого. Ну складно ж дивитися хлопці. Буває, плачеш тихенько. Не розумію, для чого ця війна. Це, напевно, гради падають. Жорстко обстрілюють. Тут важка лінія фронту, важка. Коли сильний обстріл, страшно. Страшно, коли танк робить. Міномет робить. Я точно куди йде. З танка точно виход чуєш і зразу приходить на ментальний приход. Ти наш куди. Зразу. Чуєш Бог, воно може быстрее. Ну, я не скажу це. А що там? Чому не скажете? Хто це не пойме. Хто був тут, той пойме.